Can anybody stand any more drums? A little more kick, a little more hat. Right there. Wait on it. Sax solo. Guitar solo. Little echo on Eric. Red. There. C minor solo. I think I hit some strange chords. Watch this.
And hey, everybody, welcome to Twitch Sports. We're back live. This looks good. Everything seems to be working well. My mic is on. That's the biggest challenge of the day. Got some friends coming by to hang, but if you are out there and want to say hello and let me know in the chat, You can follow me on Twitter. It's right below my face. Seth_Everett is on Twitter. We flipped it around for Instagram. Why somebody has my Instagram, I have no idea. And we're also on YouTube. So this show can be seen on YouTube as well, especially afterwards. But a lot going on. Please don't forget, follow, subscribe. Subscriptions to this channel have been very, very well. We are going to be doing a bunch of cool shows, and I have a lot of friends, so we're going to put them all on Twitch. I do want to start off, though, with a more serious announcement, and then we'll get into the fun and games. A couple of things that take precedence, and I try to stick to sports. I really do. I don't get very political, but I don't fool around when it comes to violence and things of a violent nature. I hate what's gone on. I hate the shootings. I understand sports folk like to step up and make statements. It doesn't lose any value when it does. But I have to say, I want police officers to do it more. That's my argument. My argument has been, let the police officers say this. You got to rip your own. That's the issue. If an athlete does something reprehensible, the athlete's the loyalty just goes too far. And the Minnesota Twins were scheduled to play the Boston Red Sox. That's why I'm bringing this up. The Twins issued a statement. They said, out of respect for the tragic events that occurred yesterday in Brooklyn Center and following the additional details in this evolving situation, the Minnesota Twins have decided it is in the best interest of our fans, staff, players, and community to not play today's game. That's the Twins statement. The Twins were slated to play the Boston Red Sox, and that was a game I was going to be following on this channel. That's why we delayed a little bit, because I wanted to see if there was another game we could do it for. We were going to sidecast the Twins and the Red Sox. That was the original plan. The Minnesota Timberwolves were scheduled to play the Brooklyn Nets. That has been postponed. And the Minnesota Wild were set to play the St. Louis Blues. That has been postponed. The Derek Chauvin trial is going on in Minneapolis. And if you look in the back, you see the symbol behind me. I have connections to Minnesota. I worked with Prince for a little while. And I understand what Minneapolis is, and I understand what Minneapolis has been. The Minneapolis music scene is very special to me. And, having a small connection to an artist like Prince was massive. There's no secret about that. But at the same time, I also have to say that I'm not fooling around when it comes to trying to understand how to comprehend all of this. On this Twitch channel alone, this is another reason to follow. On this Twitch channel alone, we have talked to family members of victims of police brutality. And we did it. We talked to Emerald Garner, and I have the clip of that, and I might play that on this show. When Joey, my buddy, comes on the show, maybe when I have a second, I'm going to look that up and see if I can play it right here on the channel. But there is something about what has gone on. So this is the NHL officials. This is the NHL statement. It says the decision was made out of respect for the community following the tragic shooting that occurred in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, Sunday afternoon. The National Hockey League extends its sincere condolences to the family and friends of Dante Wright. And it's going to get ugly because this is a situation where it's a female cop, and the police chief said the shooting was accidental. The officer involved intended to fire a stun gun and not a handgun during a struggle. Police were trying to arrest him on an outstanding warrant. That's an awful accident. That's all I can say. It's an awful accident. That's a hard accident to let just have value. It's really rough, and that's something that I wrestle with often, to be honest. And it's something that I struggle with a lot. So that's on the table. I have some other things. Joey, who's going to come hang out with us, he is he works in the tech space and technology, Twitch, and sports have this merging, and it's pretty amazing. Jim's there. Okay, is golf on the table? Yeah, it was great golf yesterday. Matsuyama won it on Saturday. Let's be honest, his back nine on Saturday was crazy. He made up 6 shots. He was 2 back, and then he had a 4-stroke lead, and he held on Sunday. And Hideki Matsuyama, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, Jim, and I'm going to say something unpopular, but I think if I'm Hideki Matsui, I knew I was going to mess that up. Oh, my God. If I'm Hideki Matsuyama, I would say flat out, I'm thrilled to win this for my career. You could take your green jacket. And there was a picture of Matsuyama at the airport. I guess he's going to Chicago, and he was waiting at the gate. And there was a picture, and he's talking, playing with his phone, and he's got the jacket on a chair hanging out. He didn't have it on or anything like that. I don't know. I struggle with the Masters. The Masters makes less and less sense to me. I never liked that tournament. I've never fallen for the majesty of it. It's not something that's on my bucket list. And to be honest with you, a lot of people have always said the Masters are the bucket list. Like that's what the bucket list does. But I have trouble with a bucket list. I really do. I hate to say it, but I'm kind of done with it. No, I'm anti-Masters. It's not the Masters. The Indianapolis 500 could go F itself. I could care less about that racing. That has no value. The only thing that I really want to do in sports is see Wimbledon. And that's just my personal, and if I don't see Wimbledon, I'll be fine with it. I have, in normal times, I have excuses to go to England. I'd love to make Wimbledon an excuse to go. I've covered 2 Super Bowls. I've covered 2 NBA Finals. I've covered 2, maybe 3 Stanley Cup Finals. I've been to a dozen World Series. I don't know what else. I don't know what else. Indiana, Augusta once in a lifetime. No, I don't like the history of Augusta. The history of Augusta is disgusting, and I struggle with it. And it's something that I learned a long time ago. To be honest with you, when I learned about it, it was during Tiger Woods' prime. He would talk about it, and it made me want to research it because I remember it was 20 years ago. Tiger Woods been in this league for 20 years. Oh my God. But I remember being very, very young, and Augusta just grosses me out. The whole thing just grosses me. It's not about the current political stuff. Has nothing to do with it. I've never liked Augusta. I've gone to golf tournaments. I've covered. This shirt is from the Winged Foot, right? Yeah. Winged Foot. This was last year. I went, there were no fans there. It's from the U.S. Open. Anyway, I want to welcome in Joey Lewandowski to the show. Let's see. Ooh, he went side by side. We're going to try to make this side by side. Hi, Joey. There it goes. That looks better. What's going on, buddy? Well, we're live on Twitch. How's that feel?
Oh, it feels great. How's it going so far?
Say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Should I be watching the Twitch chat, or are you going to just communicate?
No,
what they're saying?
I'll read you the okay. Chat. See, I said you're a tech guy, so you know a lot about Twitch. We do Twitch on Zoom just because more people know it.
Yes.
Because if I'm getting people like you, I could have said Discord. You would have known what to do.
Of course.
Like you would have figured it out. But for some people, and I just get into this habit, especially with my podcast, that the audio is fine on Zoom, so I try to do Zoom. That's it. Before we do a proper introduction and all of that, No need to read the chat. You know, Seth was trashing the Masters. What's your feeling on the Masters? Is that a bucket list thing for you?
I've never been to a golf event. I've golfed a little bit, but I've never seen one in person. I would like to go to the Masters. That's the big one, right? But I would be, how do you do a golf event? Do you just like stay at a hole? You stay at one hole and you watch everybody go through, or do you move around?
See, this is why this is going to be an easy show to do. I've had both experiences.
Okay.
I've covered events. So the first golf event was, I think, in '99. I covered the PGA Championship at Sahali. I'll tell you that Vijay Singh won it, and I'll tell you why I know that and why I remember that. But for that, I had to do updates like every 20 minutes. And you literally sit in a room and watch the leaderboard. And now you could do that from your house.
Sure.
In '99, that would have been a little hard. But to go there and just look at a board, it was so boring. It was absolutely boring. Then I've gone to a couple of what's the one on in Long Island? It's out east by Montauk. A couple of years ago, it was the U.S. Open. God dang it! And Xander Schauffele, who Jim asked about in the chat, he was on Sports with Friends. We recorded it at this place, wherever the location is. I have a jacket from there.
Sag Harbor, Hempstead, East Hampton, Old Westbury, Lake Success, Locust Valley.
Could have been Bethpage Black. Wingfoot. Yeah, no, Wingfoot was this year. Was last year. I'm talking about 2 years ago when there were a boatload of people. Who knows? You're looking it up.
Bethpage Black, May 13th and 19th, 2019.
Yeah, it could have been that.
Yeah. The Ryder Cup?
Nope. It was the U.S. Open. It was definitely the U.S. Open because my buddy Jeff, who's going to be another person I rope into this Twitch stuff, he works for the USGA. And he got me a credential, and that's when we did a podcast with Xander Schauffele, who at the time we didn't know who he was, but now he's great. You know, I like to get these guys on before they're superstars.
I don't even know. I don't know enough about golf to know what to Google. Like, I don't know what I'm looking at. So I'm no help here, unfortunately. I'm so sorry.
The issue that I brought up is Augusta turns me off. Just the history of it turns me off. Augusta as a tournament, it nauseates me. Just the history of it. And when I learned of the history, what I was trying to put some context to it was when Tiger Woods was in his prime. And he would do these interviews about Augusta and how, black people couldn't play there and minorities were never accepted. And it's only, they were basically forced by the golf community to allow these people to play. And it's so off-putting that when people make bucket lists of sports things, I would think for any standard bucket list, a Super Bowl, World Series, NBA Finals, or a Stanley Cup Finals, in America, those would be the favorites. But Augusta usually is the bucket list golf event, and I could care less. And if I don't think, unless I was paid to cover it, I wouldn't go to Augusta.
Well, I think the most iconic thing in all of golf is probably the green jacket, right? Like to the point where, so I'm in a very competitive fantasy baseball league. This is our 15th season. It's my 12th. I want to say 12th in the league. I joined a couple of years after it was in. And, after 14 seasons, we have 3 people with 2 championships, including myself. Thank you so very much. Okay. And so last year when I hosted the draft right before COVID, it was the end of February. It was the earliest draft we've ever had. We decided that we were all going to have, the 3 of us who had won 2 championships, were going to buy green jackets. And we were going to have a very exclusive corner of my kitchen where no one was allowed behind the velvet rope unless you had a championship jacket, the green jacket.
Hold on. Shinnecock. That's where it was. 2018. It was in Shinnecock, and Brooks Koepka won it, and that's when I did the podcast with Xander Schauffele. Continue.
I know Brooks Koepka. I know about him at least. But anyway, the whole point of this is that we have now adopted in our league the green jacket as the mark of greatness, that you're not allowed to wear one to the draft. I mean, I guess anybody could, but we all have, we bought emblems that we ironed on. And so we all have, the 3 of us have this jacket that, gives us VIP access to part of the draft that is no longer accessible to anybody else in the league.
Oh, very nice. So only the winner gets it.
Only the winner.
Do you guys clean it between seasons?
Well, we have a cup. We have an actual trophy, which we do not clean.
It's like that show, The League.
Well, it is, but yeah, I guess. We have like a lot of trophies that, I mean, the main trophy, and then we have a last place trophy, which is the Statue of David, which is like a real mark of shame.
that was like the show, The League. The Shiva.
Mm-hmm.
Shiva. That was named after a woman. That is
Shiva Kamini. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jim says there's zero chance your guest expected to talk golf today. Yeah, we're not talking golf. It was just you came on right as I was mentioning that the Masters happened and it was fine. Because somebody asked, is golf on the table? And I said, yeah, it is. But I watched it. I saw Matsuyama. He was great on Saturday. But again, the Masters does nothing for me. The PGA Tour, the U.S. Open, the British Open even, those are great tournaments. Augusta, I could take it or leave it. But, okay, we beat that to death. I don't know if you saw the news, but the Timberwolves, the Minnesota Wild, and the Minnesota Twins canceled their games today.
I did.
That is probably more of a safety thing than a statement thing. That's how I interpreted that. I thought the Twins, there's protests going on in Minneapolis. Emotions are high. The Chauvin trial is going on at the same time.
Sure.
I thought the Twins had to, and out of respect, the Timberwolves and the Wild had to also. But the Twins were going to do it first because their game is in the afternoon.
Right. They should have already been halfway through it. Yeah.
That's what I originally wanted to do. And I don't know if I told you this, Joey, but I wanted to sidecast Twins Red Sox. That was the idea. I was going to just have you and whoever else wanted to come on and watch Twins Red Sox as the day was going on, and then that whole got kiboshed.
Yeah, I would have been watching it anyway. I would have had it on at least in the background because I got Devers on my fantasy team. I gotta pay respect to the man.
And you're
get a hot weekend, big weekend.
MLB.TV subscriber.
I absolutely am. And I love that, especially, I feel like the big oversight that MLB does or they do not do, whatever, what they are lacking in is day games, especially early in the year. Opening day, there's a great opportunity. I think the Yankees played at 1:00 on opening day. And then like the second day, there were none scheduled. The only one that went there was the Red Sox that got rained out. And I feel like, especially now when people are not tired of baseball yet, like not tired of watching baseball every day, there's a real opportunity to draw in people to just have it on in the background.
Yeah. The only argument against that, and this is probably old world thinking, but I would say the argument against that is kids are in school.
Sure, but not right now. So
well, they're not right now because of COVID, and you don't schedule.
Yeah.
You didn't base your schedule because when schedules are done, they're submitted because networks require X amount of night games because they're better ratings at night. So for television purposes, they were doing that. My argument, I'll give you an example. I think that if you are traveling more than 1,000 miles at the end of your series, you should be forced to play a day game.
Yeah.
And my example of that is the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves, who as a team, they just irritate me. The Atlanta Braves, the 2014, I was with the Mets, and we played on a Thursday night with a rain delay and I believe a 10th inning. We played on a Thursday night in 2014, and then we had to play on a Friday night in Anaheim.
Wow, yeah.
But the Braves homestand continued. That's garbage. Like that should be.
That's tough.
You're playing an afternoon game. And if you want to start it late, you want to do a 4:00 or a 3:00 start, done.
Sure. I think it's hard for some of the players, especially catchers, right? Day game after a night game, so on and so forth. But maybe do 2 in a row or something. I don't know.
I just think, and we traveled. I remember we didn't get off in the air till 1:00 Eastern time. By the time we landed, it was probably like 7:30, 8:00 in the morning Eastern time, but 5:00 then. And you're supposed to play at a championship level that night. That's hard. And I was broadcasting and I was tired.
Well, I mean, you're the hardest working man in the biz.
Of course. Of course. Not then. I was exhausted. And people are like, oh, it's nice hotels and it's chartered planes. It doesn't matter. it's still exhausting. And the travel is what kills. And the best example of that is the NBA playoffs during the bubble last summer, because the NBA playoffs, the quality of the play increased, not because of the minutes. It was you took travel out of it.
Yeah, that was
Once
the best
you take
basketball that we've ever seen.
Travel
Mm-hmm.
hurts players on all sports.
It's tough. It's all you always hear about in football too, right? Like a West Coast team flying east, playing a 1 o'clock game, not used to it.
Well, and I
Teams
don't
trying
understand. The Jets this year had 2 straight games. I think they played the Chargers and the Seahawks, and they went home in between. And that is dumb too.
I don't know. Was that because of COVID? Do you think safer at home?
Yeah, they didn't want to go to another practice facility.
Yeah,
And they probably didn't want to be on the road. But I think that's draining on your players. That's hard. So that's wild. So you do me a favor. Tell our audience here about the Palmer Group, what the Palmer Group is, because I don't even know. We do this new podcast called Tech Stream, and when I tell people about it and I say who I do it with, some people know who Shelly is, but some people don't, and I don't know how to explain it to anybody.
So we're a strategy and solutions consulting firm based in New York City. Shelly is, I'm never surprised by when people know Shelly because he seems to be known by all people in all places. He is a public speaker and a strategist.
It's hard to explain who he is,
Well, he's one of the most dynamic speakers that I've ever seen, and I'm not just saying that because he signs my checks. But I do think that the podcast that you guys have together is compelling for that very reason, that he is able to take complex topics and break them down, like tomorrow's episode about crypto and blockchain, like what it is. I mean, you can go to a lot of places to figure out what that is, but I think the spin that he puts on it makes it easy to digest and easy to understand. And you are able to coax that out of him in a wonderful way. But yeah, we provide strategy and solutions to a lot of different companies. We help people with data. We help people with mission, vision, value statements. However people want to get better at their jobs and do better for whatever they do, we're there to help them with it.
It's pretty fascinating. And, you guys created these networking things, and I've met so many cool people because of it. And over the summer, I had this idea because during the pandemic, I found out that my computer was overtaxed and it was just getting really hot, and I thought it was going to explode. And I did a big rebuild, and I did a ton of research. Like, it wasn't like I had to buy something the next day. Like, I did research and took some time. And as I was learning more and more things, I kept saying, this would be a cool podcast. Like, this would be something interesting. And then I did some research about podcasts, and what I found was the tech podcasts were either super like nerdy, like super expert like, and those are turnoffs to me, or they're for dummies. And they were like, how to turn on your location services. And I thought that was lame too. So Shelly is the perfect person to go in between all that. Make it compelling for the experts, but make it understandable for the dummies. And then the people in the middle are interested in the topics we've had. I think the podcast idea is working out perfect.
I think the topics that you guys have covered so far, it's a nice blend. And what I like about this is that you can kind of cover whatever you want, and there's an angle there to make it interesting, whether it's something tech-based or whether it's something pop culture-based, which we've kind of dived into a little bit, but not supremely yet.
Not yet.
But, Shelly's also like, when he talks about sports, I'm like, oh, right, you do. Like, you're also like a normal person, not just like a tech genius who like is just on a computer all the time. Like, he watches the Giants games and whatever, or like he'll watch the Mets. He wrote Let's Go Mets. Like, he's a sports guy who also watches movies and stuff. And so I think that there is an angle here that it's kind of like nerd stuff for cool nerds kind of. And like, whether you're an expert or a novice or somewhere in between, you can find something of value in the podcast.
Well, in the way I approached it, it's very similar to this other podcast I have that called The Hall of Justice, which is about superheroes, but it's not nerdy. It's not who's stronger in a fight, Superman or the Hulk. Like, it's not that. It has gravitas, and we talk to actors, and we talk to voice actors and writers and directors and, those kinds of folks on that show. And I said, how can you do something that's for a mainstream audience? So like people who listened to sports radio, and notice I said listened, not current, because I don't think anybody listens to sports radio anymore. unless it's on Twitch or a podcast or something else, because radio to me doesn't make any sense. And, it's funny. Yesterday I heard about the Mets debacle, not to divert too far, but yesterday the Mets had an absolute train wreck of a day. And that's on the team, by the way. That is solely on the team. And I know they have a new owner, but so far they look like the same team that I worked for. And that was, they let their super investment pitcher start a game in a rainstorm. They faced 2 batters, 8 pitches, and then called the game. And how are you, the home team, not putting that game in a rain delay? And
right.
Secondly, how are you starting your stud pitcher? Who blocks me on Twitter, by the way?
Stroman?
Yeah, and I don't know why. I know why Noah Syndergaard blocks me on Twitter, but not Syndergaard. I take as a badge of honor. I don't understand Stroman. I think Stroman looked at Syndergaard's block list and just copied it, because I did nothing to Marcus Stroman.
In about 2 months, you'll have 40% of their rotation blocked you on Twitter. So maybe you can crack the 50% mark. Maybe you can get piss off DeGrom or Taiwan Walker or someone.
DeGrom babysat my kid.
Oh, really?
Did I never tell you that story?
No.
Oh, hey, this is a good one. So in 2014, my kids, they're 12 and 9 now. So 2014, 7 years, 12 minus 7, 5. So she had just turned 6. And it was August, and it's a long year. And it was something that I'm glad I had the experience to do, but I wish that it's not in the umpire's hands, Jim. It's in the umpire's once the first pitch is thrown. It's the home team's decision first. So in 2014, I wished I had taken that job when I was a lot younger, because the teams that I covered for, I didn't have to go to every game. When I worked for the Mariners or the Phillies, even in 2011, or even the Rockies. In the Rockies, I didn't travel. The Mariners, I traveled only to big series, and it would only be to short trips, so like Oakland and Anaheim. I wouldn't go to Kansas City, you know what I mean? But in the Mets, it was 162 games. And I had little kids. I had a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I missed them dearly. And the road trips were awesome because out of sight, out of mind, Like the road trips are amazing. You're staying in these awesome hotels. All your meal money's covered. It was, you sleep till noon. It was a great life. But the homestand, I live in New Jersey, and schlepping to Citi Field every goddamn day was starting to really weigh on me.
A lot. Yeah.
And I would get up early because I would walk the kids to school, or, wait at the bus stop for them for camp and all that stuff. And it was just starting to really, really hurt me. So my daughter's birthday is in August, and she made me cry. All she wanted for her birthday was to go to work with Daddy. So I arranged it with the Mets that I could take her to a game. And they agreed to let me have her in the booth, which I was stunned at. They let me have a 6-year-old in the booth. I was stunned. Jim's like, the babysitter story. And she had to be real quiet. We let her bring toys. Like I totally took care of her. There was one thing that I could not bring my daughter in, and it was my interview with Terry Collins.
Okay.
I have a 6-minute pregame spot. It's sponsored. It has to be just one-on-one because he reveals stuff and he can't have the door open or whatever. And so I arranged it. I was very meticulous about this. And there is a female security officer in Citi Field. And I asked her to watch the kid for the 6 minutes. Like I'd set that up. And we were all set to go. And everything's going on. We go on the field. It's super fun. And then all of a sudden, right before Collins is supposed to happen, a siren goes off at Citi Field. And there's an announcement on the PA that says, all security personnel, report to gate, whatever. And I was like, oh my God. And the woman looks at me and she had like a thick New York accent. She's like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, it's not her fault. She's doing her job.
Right. Yeah.
But now what do I do?
Sure.
I don't feel comfortable just leaving her. I can't leave her. And I can't bring her in. And the only thing I was going to do was risk getting in trouble, bringing her in for Terry Collins.
Sure.
And Jacob deGrom, who was a rookie, saw the whole thing. and saw me panic. And he comes over and he just says, "I'll watch her." He goes, how long is this? And I said, literally 6 minutes. He says, "Don't worry about it." And he goes and
That's
sits
awesome.
down in these big loungy chairs that they have outside the locker room. And they played. I don't know what they played. My daughter doesn't remember it. She remembers him, but not it. Like, she doesn't know what they did. And I go in, I interview Terry Collins, I come out, and there she was. And I thanked him profusely. He was great. The next year, I leave the Mets, but he wins the Cy Young. And I have
Because of her. You think she whispered some like tips in his ear?
No, I think karma is a real thing.
Okay.
And I root for good people. And you
Sure.
cannot not root for Jacob deGrom. I don't care what team you like. Jacob deGrom is salt of the earth. He's as good as they come. And he is a guy who, when he won the Cy Young, I had my line, he babysat my kid. Because technically
Good line.
So
Yeah.
technically he did. That's like, there's another example. Donovan McNabb
Okay.
was a freshman when I was a senior, and he had a pickup truck. And I get hired to move to Denver, and I don't have any furniture, but I had a box full of stuff to ship to Denver because the rest of it I was going to fit in my car. And me and my friend are trying to put something in the trunk of my Saturn. I had a Saturn, and I couldn't, it wouldn't fit. The box wouldn't fit. And Donovan McNabb pulls off and sees me and my friend Larry, and he just says, I can't watch you guys. You guys are awful. And he says, "Put your box in the back of my truck, and where are you taking this?" And I was like, "The mailboxes, et cetera, down the street." And I don't even think they have mailboxes, et cetera, anymore. Right?
I've heard of it. I don't know if it exists anymore. I don't
think it
know,
exists
but
anymore.
sure.
But anyway, we did that. And that was great. And Donovan McNabb was a cool guy, and that was all. And then a couple of years later, I'm in the media, and the Rush Limbaugh incident happens, where he says that black quarterbacks, are smart and blah, 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 blah. And this one radio host just says, "What's your thoughts on Donovan McNabb?" And that's when I had the line, "Well, he's great. He helped me move." Because technically that happened.
It's true.
It's technically true.
For sure.
All right. Enough story time. This is not like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was streaming. And we're going to be doing a podcast, Shelly and I, next week about it. But I have a big issue with the current state of streaming. And as a tech person, I think this is a sports topic that really does need to be addressed because there is a pattern here that is ugly. There is these blackout rules in streaming.
Yep.
And let's just use baseball as the example because you're a big baseball guy. I covered that goddamn sport. But streaming, MLB.TV requires geotagging. And if you live in a certain area, you can't watch certain temes.
Correct.
And some of the blackout rules are ridiculous. Like you could be in Guam and not be able to get the Mariners. They're such dumb rules. And what it makes sense is if you are a kid in Baltimore, Maryland, let's take money out of the conversation. But if you live in Baltimore, Maryland, you cannot get the Orioles on MLB.TV. Right. You can get the Red Sox or the Blue Jays or the Atlanta Braves, but not the Orioles. And to me, what they're doing is, as the trends go, that younger people are not getting cable. I think this is a major issue because what will happen is if it's easier to watch an out-of-town team, you are going to lose touch with your hometown team. And it becomes less and less, it makes less and less sense so that if you're a kid who grows up in Westchester, New York, there's no reason for you to be in, to like the Yankees or the Mets. There's no reason for it. And that's what's wrong. Do you think something happens to change that where a team, and I know I'm going on a run on, but I'm trying to set this up. The Seattle Kraken had the opportunity to fix this because they could have been the trendsetters. The Seattle Kraken are a new team. They could have done a direct-to-consumer deal, and they could have where no matter where you live, you pay a fee. And I'm not saying make it free, but pay a fee, and wherever you live, I can watch the Seattle Kraken, even if I live in Queen Anne, which is across the street from that godforsaken arena. Do you see something like that happening in the next 5-10 years?
I don't think so. I think that so the big kind of bellwether was the NFL, right? And the NFL just inked this like multi-billion dollar, however many billions of dollars
the NFL
deal.
is all national contracts, no local. There's a big difference.
Okay, but I do think that could have set a precedent for how sports is viewed online. And I think that this current contract will not do that. And maybe in the next one, when it starts in 2031 or whatever.
Let me clarify one thing. They have not announced what Sunday Ticket will be. And that could be direct to consumer. Now, it will probably have blackout rules, which are stupid, because if you buy, let's say Amazon Prime or Netflix buys the Sunday Ticket.
Right.
If you live in New Jersey, we both live in New Jersey, if you can't put the Jets and Giants on, but by being a Netflix subscriber, I can watch the Rams or the Raiders or the Dallas Cowboys, I have no incentive to like my hometown team.
Right. It's fascinating because I see where you're coming from. And the other thing to keep in mind is that like the more you gatekeep, the more inclined people are to just Google Reddit NFL streams and then cut everybody out, right? Because like you can find.
Tell me how to do that. I don't know how to do that.
Well, I can't really talk about that because that's not technically legal. But if you Google the thing that I just said, like there are ways that you can find online any sports game. And so I agree with you that it's frustrating that MLB TV is a beautiful thing. If I want to watch, like, I'm a Yankee fan, but if I want to see Mike Trout at 10 o'clock, crushing homers in Anaheim, I can do that.
Nobody wants to do that.
I want to do that. I'm wearing a Mike Trout shirt right now, believe it or not. But
how old are you, first of all?
I'm 33.
Okay. You are barely cutting the divider. I always say the only baseball fans are 35 plus.
No, I exist. I'm real. I understand that I am not I'm not the norm, but I still buy movies on Blu-ray.
But the trend is getting worse. And I'm just saying,
sure.
If you have that much content, if you have 162 games, make your games available.
Well, I think MLB TV does that. It's just the blackout rules that are the issue. And I agree with you. Like, in football, I'm a Vikings fan, right? So like, I would love the ability to have legally and inexpensively watch the Vikings. I mean, the Giants and the Jets are on every week. I don't really want to watch them. So I was watching Red Zone for a while. I do.
Okay. Okay. Continue.
Again, I have the media habits of a much older man. I understand that I'm sort of stuck between generations. Like I would love the ability to legally watch the Vikings on my TV without really a delay, as opposed to, the way that MLB TV does it. But like that does not exist. Like I would have to subscribe to DirecTV or whatever, and then get something ticket on top of that. And I don't want that. I have Fios. That's better in every way, except for the NFL thing, right? I don't know how you solve it, because what's surprising to me is that this year in Yankee games, every game, every day on the screen, it's the Yes app, right? And they're really pushing the app. But the whole thing with the app is that it's for authenticated users. So that does not solve your problem.
No, and
but
you have to have a cable subscription.
Exactly. They're pushing people finally towards streaming because they know that streaming is the thing, but it's still like you have to pay for this and you have to be within a certain blackout or whatever. Like probably have to be in your home network.
If you have the Yes app and you are geographically in the market, you can see it. The Yes app is the best one. The problem with the Yes app is you have to have a cable service.
Right. So, and that's what I mean.
Not require that, because if you have Hulu Live, SNY is on Hulu Live, but Yes Network is not.
So like that's what's interesting though, because like it feels like the Yankees being, the biggest team in the market and one of the biggest teams in the country, finally in 2021 realizing, people want to watch this on their iPad, like they can, but it's still not like, I don't know, it's still not there. It's getting there. It's not there yet. So
the link I just put in the chat, and Joey, you can't see it, so I'm going to read part of this. Billings, Montana is 817 miles from T-Mobile Park in Seattle, Washington. MLB.TV considers Billings home territory and subject to blackouts. It would take 12 hours to drive from Seattle to Billings.
I about a decade ago, right before I started working for Shelley, I drove cross country, and I was staying with family friends in Montana, and I was like, being in Montana, you're not near anybody. Like, who do you root for sports wise? She's like, it's kind of Denver, it's kind of Seattle, but like it's kind of or where you came from if you're not from there. And I'm like, oh, that kind of makes sense. But then you think about that, like you look at like the blackout regions and it's like, well, that doesn't really it's difficult. Like it would almost behoove you as like a sports fan to like live in a place where you don't care about the local team and then just be able to watch everything anywhere else, right? I don't know.
No, I get it. My argument has been Jim says, so YouTube streaming is great as long as you have someone's cable password to get the yes network. Yes, I totally. I trade passwords with people. You know, in my not immediate family, but my extended family. What I do is for example, I give out my MLB.TV password. That's an example. I'll give out that password, and people who don't live in the New York area can watch the Yankees that way, which is again dumb.
Yeah,
it's dumb. And what my concern about streaming, and this was in a different column that I wrote, is it goes a little bit further. So this love with the cable companies, and that's part of it. Streaming your home. This is the article. It's called "Streaming Your Home Team's Games Shouldn't Be This Hard."
Sure. And
I'll give you the example, and I'll use my kid again. I'm using my kid a lot in these examples. MSG owns an app called MSG Go.
Okay.
I'll tell you this about MSG Go. They refuse to design an Apple TV app. They refuse. The only way to watch a Knicks, Rangers, Islanders, or Devils game, you have to sign in with a cable company on your iPhone or iPad and then AirPlay to a TV. If you go to the weather app on the iPhone, your stream gets disconnected. So in a span of 30 minutes, I watch the Devils. I'm a big Devils fan. In a span of 30 minutes, a phone call, text message, and a Twitter notification all knock the game off the TV. The process is so arduous, it shouldn't be this difficult.
Right.
So I use my daughter but the NHL just announced this big deal with ESPN and ESPN Plus. And the argument against it is they're like, we're going to have 1,000 games all out of market.
Right.
So you don't need to subscribe to NHL.tv. You can just get ESPN Plus, which if you have Disney Plus, there's a good chance you get the bundle. And now I have all of that. You have that opportunity, but they don't use it.
Well, I wonder if this is all in service of a larger goal, and I think goal is maybe too generous of a phrase, but I feel like in an era of fantasy sports and in an era of this kind of streaming, if they're just trying to create general fandom as opposed to fans of a local team, that if you just love hockey and you love watching stars play, you can watch thousands or whatever of out-of-market games, and if you didn't grow up as a Devils fan, you don't care about watching the Devils, like you can just watch the other 2019, or I guess, also we probably have here blocked out the Rangers and the Islanders, right?
No, I see where you're going.
The same thing, kind of thing, like it's the same kind of, for a couple of years, I've always been a Yankees fan. I've never not been a Yankees fan, but there was times where I was like more of just kind of a general baseball fan because I didn't like the era where they were spending like $160 million on Giambi or whoever. And just like that wasn't a team I identified with, but I could watch on MLB TV. I could watch, Mookie Betts up in Boston. I could watch Mike Trout out in Anaheim, and I could watch these guys do their thing and still follow the game and still be invested in my fantasy baseball league, but still love baseball and then not worry about having to find a Yankee game, even if I didn't have cable at the time, which I did, but that's neither here nor there.
Argument. The argument should be what I'm thinking about is the young fan. The fan that's watching this, because people who are just coming across this on Twitch, that they're not cable subscribers.
Right.
Like if you're a Twitch viewer, you are not watching cable. And, in 2018, I did a podcast about the NBA because the NBA marriage with Turner and ESPN could lead to their undoing because their regular season ratings were down. And Adam Silver, who I think is a really, really smart guy, said it's not an NBA issue. The NBA is trending the same. It's that we make our highlights so available. Instagram, TikTok, what's the one? What's the porn one where you take a picture and it disappears for 24 hours?
Snapchat?
Snapchat, thank you.
I wouldn't call that the porn one, but I know where you're going. Okay.
Okay. That's not why it got invented, right? Of course. The idea then was that there was no reason. If you wanted to see everything that Kawhi Leonard could do, you could find it. You don't need to pay for a cable subscription to see the NBA on TNT or ESPN. Forget your local games. Like, we beat that to death already. You don't even have to go there to see the stars. So that the NBA has not lost fandom. As a matter of fact, the NBA trends on Twitter all the goddamn time.
For that reason.
For that reason, exactly.
Yep.
And so live sports are becoming less and less valuable. So going back to the MSG app, I told you the 7,000 steps that to take to watch a Devils game. My 12-year-old watches the games because she does with me, and we watch sports together. When she is 18, in 6 years, we're not talking about the far future here. In 6 years, when she is a freshman in college.
And she'll be babysitting DeGrom's kids. Yeah.
Right. She will. I'll text her and I'll say, hey, the Devils are playing the Penguins tonight. She is not going to remember the 17 steps, and she's not going to care. And
I think that in 6 years, though,
I lost that fan. That's wrong.
I think in 6 years it'll be different. I don't know when, but I feel like we're at a pivot point in a lot of ways. And I think streaming as a whole, and not just sports streaming, I think streaming in a whole is going to change radically in the next 18 to 24 months, because I think that there are so many companies getting on the bandwagon because they need a streaming app. And I think that we're quickly reaching an oversaturation point. And, I have, media FOMO. So I subscribe to everything, or I split, with my sister. Like, I'm like, okay, I get Netflix, but you got Hulu, and I have HBO, so you can use that, but you have Peacock or whatever. Like, and we just have, legally share because it's the family account or whatever. Right. And so I have all those, but I feel like at a certain point, I'm not a big Star Trek guy. So like, there's nothing on Paramount Plus that immediately calls me,
and Shameless,
but I still want it.
I had the Showtime Paramount Plus Apple bundle, and I just canceled it because Shameless is over, and there's nothing keeping me there.
Right. And so I feel, and I know this is something that we've talked about in the salons that you mentioned before, our online networking salons that Shelly and Alexis created. And it's something that we talk about a lot on Thursdays, and then technology, media, and marketing. It's how many $10 do you really have between music apps and video apps and everything you're supporting? If you're supporting Patreons or, Cameo, like whatever, OnlyFans, like whatever you're doing.
OnlyFans, nice.
It's in Shelley's weekly blog this week about the emergence of the creator economy.
Patreon just got $4 billion or something like that, right?
It was valued at $4 billion after another raise. Yep. So it's the kind of thing where like people don't want to spend $200 a month on their cable bill, but when you're paying $70 a month on internet, and you're also then paying for Netflix and Hulu and HBO Max and everything else, it's like all of a sudden it's like 170, and it's like, well, I'm not really saving.
Well, my bypass for that, and this is just me, this is not a lot of people, but my wife has been working from home for, 10 years, like pre-pandemic.
Yeah, me too.
And so the situation is that her company pays for our internet. So I take that cost out. I was paying $215 on DirecTV, and even with all those apps, I'm probably at a little over half.
Sure, but I think that you're the exception. You're not the rule, right? Because you have the advantage of having.
I understand. I understand. We get our internet from there, and we get top flight internet, so that's never been an issue. But I do pay for, and I don't count Amazon Prime, because if there was no Prime Video, you'd have Amazon Prime anyway. Yeah,
probably. That's probably true.
Right? Like the hook to get Amazon Prime is not Mrs. Maisel. As much as I love that show.
It's everything. It's like you give us $120 a year, and like basically all of our services, for the most part, with a few exceptions, are just included. I get that.
Okay, yeah. So take that one out. So that's why I take that one out.
Right.
It's I do Hulu Live with the bundle, So that's Disney Plus and ESPN Plus.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about $75. Netflix is what, 13?
It depends on which one you get. Like I pay like 17 a month for the Netflix, the 4K Netflix, but I think you can get it for like 13, 14.
And I buy the MLB, but that's once a year.
Yep.
And because of
HBO?
that, I trade, and that's how I get HBO Max.
Gotcha. Yep.
So to me, it's $100 a month.
Right.
And the initial investment in Apple TV, because I've got 3 of them. And Apple TVs
Yes.
are so convenient. I move them from, for example, our kitchen, which we barely use, and we have a TV in our basement, and I can literally just unplug it, and I bought an extra wire, and it just plugs into the back, and it's done. And it's where you left off. Like if I'm watching a show on here, if I watch The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on here, and I pause it to go do this show, I go downstairs. It literally takes 2 seconds to pick up where you left off.
And I think that's the other thing. Like I only have cable still. Like when I bought my house 3 years ago, I signed like a 3-year deal with Fios, and I was like, it was a great deal. And I had everything. It was like their top end everything, and it was a really good price. And so this past like December, January, where I was like, okay, I'm like 4 months out. Like I'm going to call. Like I've got time. I'm going to call them. I'm going to figure out how much it's going to cost. Like let me see if I can get like a bargain. Like maybe I'll drop some stuff. Maybe I'll add some stuff. Maybe I'll save some money. Who knows? And the first woman I talked to basically laughed me off the phone. She's like, you have an unbeatable rate. And not only can I not improve that, but in 4 months when this expires, it's going to go up by like $60 a month. And I'm like, that's not acceptable. And she's like, well, there's nothing I can do. So I hang up and I call back and I speak to a different guy. He's just like, I'm sorry you had that experience. Like, let's see what we can figure out. And I had come up with a list of the channels that I watch and the list of the channels that like, that the Nets are on or the Yankees are on or that I watch shows on or whatever. And I had a list of like 8 channels. And I was like, these are the channels that I want. And we figured out what package makes sense. And like, it was really sad that it felt like a victory to me to save $15 a month and basically lose 2/3 of the channels that I had. But that's what it was, because it was about to go up by a lot of money. And so I signed another 3-year deal. But like, if I didn't care about sports, almost everything I want to watch is on Hulu the next day. Correct. Like, Bob's Burgers is on Fox on Sunday nights, and I can watch that
this morning.
right now.
Batwoman this morning. I was fine.
And so
Batwoman is awful, by the way, in case anybody's watching.
If you're savvy enough to know where things are, and I know that a lot of people play the like bounce around game where they're like, this month I'm going to pay for Netflix. I'm going to watch like the 4 Netflix series, and I'm going to cancel that subscription. Next month I'll do Hulu, and I'll catch up on my 4 shows there or whatever.
Do that?
I don't know a lot of people, but I know some people who do that. I think the
challenging. Like
the far more common thing is the password sharing.
Shameless ended, and if Billions ever comes out, I would consider getting Showtime again.
Sure, like it's the kind of thing where like you don't really miss it until it's gone. But I don't know. Like I was paying for it in my old Fios thing. I had Stars and I had Showtime because it was just included on their high tier, and then I didn't have them, and I'm wondering like, oh, like I watched a movie or 2 on Stars per month. And it's like, well, I could rent those for $4 instead of spending $10 a month on Stars. Totally. Right. So like, you're going to save money. I don't know. It's difficult. I think the financials of it, all of it are just insane. And I think that's why I think that in 6 years, when you're saying your daughter goes off to college and wants to watch the Devils, I think things are going to change in the next 18 to 24 months when like the next 1 or 2 sort of like must-have TV subscriptions come out and people don't want to pay for all of these things.
But these teams, going back to sports, these teams keep signing these contracts with these networks that require cable services. Like the Seattle Kraken is the team, and I'll criticize them because they had the opportunity. They were a brand new franchise, had no loyalty, and they signed with Root Sports. And I'm sorry, that was dumb, because now the only way to see the Kraken is you have to be a cable subscriber in that market, because again, ESPN Plus, there's blackout rules. And if the ESPN Plus, I don't know what the NHL rules are. My experience covering baseball, that's why I knew the MLB blackout rules and the Guam thing. The Guam thing, by the way, is the Giants and the A's, not the Mariners. That's just as stupid. But this argument that in the NHL, like if you live in Bellevue, Washington, which is a super affluent area, you have to have cable to see the Kraken. Shouldn't you take the opportunity to endear yourself to every stinking fan, like I don't know the Vegas Golden Knights situation, but one thing when when Vegas got the team, and now there's the rumor that the Timberwolves are going to move. If A-Rod buys them,
yep,
to Vegas. What I would say is every hotel reservation comes with a password to watch their games.
That's cool.
That's how you do it. Like
Yeah.
every scenario where you go to, Caesars and you're hammered or you're broke because you lost all your money and you're going back to the hotel and the Golden Knights are playing the Arizona Coyotes, you have the thing. Put it on your phone. Download an app, get it on your phone, and use this code to go in.
Yeah. I just do wonder if you/we/people are looking at it in an antiquated way that, I don't know that they're, people, it's hard. I don't know. I don't think that Seattle signing with,
it's going to be a great tech stream next week.
I don't think them signing with Root Sports is necessarily bad. I think it's the easy way out, and I think it's the default, and I don't think that's a necessarily bad thing. I think asking them to completely radically try something new, I feel like you do that with like a struggling team, like if the Cleveland Indians in Major League, like if she wants to like really like mix things up, like you do something, I don't know, like.
Well, I could take it one step further. You could argue that what I was hoping, and I'll be perfectly honest, there was the rumor when the Devils were for sale. There was the rumor, no, not the Devils, when the Mets were for sale.
Yeah.
The rumor that the Devils owner, who is also the owner of the Philadelphia 76ers, right, Harris Blitzer. It's not one guy. It's David Harris and something Blitzer. And Rudolph Blitzer. I don't know. Get it?
Reindeer. I get it.
You can't even give me a God damn it. And the rumor was they were going to buy them, and the purchase was going to include SNY.
Okay.
And if it did, you would put the Devils on. You'd create a mega network, and you'd put the Sixers, the Devils, and the Mets on the same network.
Well, it would make sense. I mean, isn't it? What's SNY stand for? Sports New York, like whatever, Sportsnet New York. Yeah. So Sixers doesn't. I don't know. But yeah, I guess because it's better than like having MSG 2+ or whatever, where it's like I don't know which MSG.
Right, but as a cord
and
cutter,
also now
it's that stupid app. And when
I
the
think
Devils
today
are on NBC Sports Network, it's the greatest thing in the world.
I think today, the 12th, is when Yes 2 officially launches, so that they can show the Nets and they can show the Yankees on the same time. There's a Yes 2 that launches today.
But if you have the Yes app, you just click Yankees or Nets.
Right. But I want to watch it on my TV. I don't want to watch it on my iPad.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is, as a cord cutter, I have the Yes app.
Sure.
So it's just literally you log into the Yes app and you hit Yankees or Nets, and that's it.
Yeah, fair enough.
And that my point is that there has to be a way to just target these young fans. Like, we're talking about basketball and hockey. Like, nowadays in this modern time, if you grow up, and we're both New Yorkers. Did you grow up in New Jersey?
I did.
Okay. Where did you grow up? I'm just curious. I like playing Jewish geography.
Oh, it's a little tiny town that it's nowhere near anything that anybody knows. It's like an hour west of New York City.
Okay.
I'm going to remain mysterious.
That's fine. In our day, what our theory is that when we grew up, you were a Mets or Yankee fan, you were a Jets or Giants fan. That was your teams. Like, you were local.
I have a side question for you. Have you found that most Yankee fans are Giants fans and most Jets fans are Mets fans?
In the 80s, yes. Nowadays, no.
You don't think so anymore? Okay.
I don't think this is anymore because when the Jets left Long Island, I think it changed. The dynamic changed. And I think that the Jets fan base, I also think personal seat licenses changed the whole mystique of it.
Sure.
Because the Giants used to have a 40-year waiting list, and now they don't have one. And so it evened the playing field. And it's weird because when I was covering the Jets for Sports Illustrated, the Jets were awful. and they were always in the top 10 of sites checked. And that was weird because they were
Yeah.
awful. And I would always say, like, if we were like 11th, I would say, that's amazing. We're an awful team. Like, imagine if they were any good, you know?
Yeah.
But nowadays, and this happened a little bit when I was growing up, there was a guy in our school that was a Steelers fan or a Dallas Cowboys fan. Like that was it. Now, you can be now if you are in 8th grade and you're an 8th grade boy, right? Because those are the kids I want to beat up, right? Because they're going to want to take my daughter out. And those kids, if they love Patrick Mahomes, it is just as easy to be a fan of Patrick Mahomes as it is the Jets or Giants.
Sure.
And if you take this cord cutting idea, because if you assume that the 8th grade fan is going to get the he would pay for the app for Sunday Ticket, not because he gambles. He would bet because he wants the Red Zone channel. He has more action and an ability to see the Kansas City Chiefs in New Jersey than he does the Jets or Giants. So the hook isn't there. And I think that because that has already infiltrated the NBA, I don't think New Yorkers are Knicks fans anymore.
Well, I think that's also because the Knicks have been bad for a while too.
Yeah,
but I also think
that's
that like
part of it. But
I think it's all
there's no hook.
It's the whole point. It's the democratization of the highlights. Like, you know, like today there was like the thing that like the trending thing was Miles Bridges' dunk. Did you see this dunk? You see the dunk?
Wait, you sent it to me in the chat?
No. I'm just saying, I'm asking if you saw the dunk. Like it was like, it's the dunk of the year. Hold on.
No.
Hold on. Here we go. I just thought you might have seen it today. Cause it was news from last night. Yeah. Here you go. And like the beautiful thing is like, it's just, you know, it's the official highlight video on Twitter, right? I'm sure you can buy an NFT of this dunk if you want it.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if the chat, I'm going to copy the chat and put it in the chat room.
But it's the kind of thing where it's like, you know, I haven't watched a Hornets game this year because as soon as I like sort of got into the Hornets and I knew about LaMelo, I was like, oh, and then LaMelo got hurt, and so I had no reason to watch the Hornets.
Wow. Yeah.
But like,
Bridges.
yeah, it's a ridiculous dunk. But it's the same kind of thing where it's like, oh, like I can watch them play, or like I watch the Nets because they're on here, but there's no one I want to watch play more than I want to watch Zion play down in New Orleans, and so like I can get one of their games a week, either on ESPN or TNT. And so I have my TiVo record the Pelicans. And so I watch those games when they're on, but it's the same kind of thing. It's just, you know, if there was like, if the, what's their MLB TV and NBA court, whatever.
NBA, oh my God. It's NHL.TV. It's NFL Sunday Ticket.
NBA Live TV.
NBA Live, maybe.
But like NBA TV, maybe, I don't know, whatever it is. Like if there was more I don't know. I don't know basketball fans. Like if I had a group of people, I don't know. But well, I think it's easy to become a fan of just a sport in general by watching highlights. And that's when I don't think that the local blackouts matter as much, because you're just like, I can watch highlights. And especially if there's like an app where it's like, hey, your guy is up at the plate, like go click over this game and watch Mike Trout bat, and like, oh, now
Apple TV
now
can do that, right?
Yeah. So
let me ask you this: if I saw this on social media, so I don't know if it's true, but is it true that 35 to 40% of consumers are cord cutters now, or is the number much lower?
Oh, I don't know the numbers, but maybe.
That's because I saw it on social media, and I didn't verify it. And just because it's on social media, it doesn't matter. Jim says, no way Seth becomes a golf fan just by watching highlights. No, you know when I became a golf fan? When I went. Oh, can I tell you my my Sahali story? My 1999 PGA Championships. So the PGA Championships, there's four days of the tournament: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I go out to this tournament. It's in Sahali. If you Google Sahali, and the PGA Championship is going on. This is Tiger Woods in his prime, Phil Mickelson in his prime, and it's 1999. And I don't know diddly about golf, but I can put together an update because that's where I'm trained. and I can give you a leaderboard. I can say, so-and-so's 3 strokes off the pace, and I know how to do pronunciations. And the host on Sunday was this guy named Mitch Levy, and he was supposed to be the host for the final round. He was going to host for like 6 hours from Sahali, and all I was doing was the updates. And he gets into a fender bender. Like, not an accident where, like, he's hospitalized, but it's a fender bender. And they got to wait for the police and all this stuff, and he's late. And I have to go on the air, and the only thing I knew about Vijay Singh was that he's from Fiji. I kept saying it. Vijay Singh, he's got the lead, and he's from Fiji. Did you know he's from Fiji? And I kept saying it. And people were calling the radio station going, could you stop telling us he's from Fiji? We know he's from Fiji. Like, enough with Fiji. And every time I saw Vijay Singh, that was the only thing I thought of.
Yeah.
I don't know. The reason why I asked the question is if it's 35, let's just say for the sake of this argument, it's 35% now. In 6 years, it's going to be over 50%.
Probably.
Once that happens, and it's HBO Max, and it's Netflix, and it's Amazon, and all. Jim says, "Wait, he's from Fiji." When that happens, you are going to alienate. These sports teams are going to alienate their home bases. They're going to alienate their young fans. And I say this about baseball. I see 2 crises in baseball. One is the upcoming collective bargaining agreement.
Yep.
And the second one is I'm 47, right? When I'm in 28 years, when I'm 75, the current person who's 14 now gets into their 40s, that person will not give a crap about baseball. That won't exist. That won't matter. And because of that, this sport's doomed. Because you like it. You're 33. So fine. In 30 years, you're in your 60s. Yeah, you'll still be a fan. But none of your children will. The next generation will not care. And that's why that sport is painstakingly slow. And I'll give you one stat. And this is a crazy stat. Did I tell you this morning when we were recording?
Yes, about the balls in play?
Balls in play.
Yep.
So hold on. I'm getting the stat. There it is. I keep checking this one person's direct message because I sent this thing. Last Tuesday, so 6 days ago, the Chicago White Sox beat the Seattle Mariners 10-4. In the game, there were 83 total plate appearances, which included 25 strikeouts, 9 walks, 1 hit batter, and 3 home runs. That is 46% of plate appearances resulted in no balls put in play, and it took 3 hours and 45 minutes.
Well, I mean, the big thing in baseball, not the big thing, but one of the big things in baseball is the 3 true outcomes, right? It's strikeouts, home runs, or walks. It's just guys who go up there like a Joey Gallo who hits 200, but has 45 homer potential, 50 homer potential, and will walk 100 times and strike out 200 times, right? It's just, the way that the league has been built, it's incentivized that kind of play.
Well, it's launch angle. Right.
And I think what's interesting, it's all about launch angle. What's interesting, and they pointed this out on yesterday as the Yankees won in extras with Rougned Odor. That there's been a lot more bunting in extra innings, like in the ghost runner on second, whatever you want to call it, extra innings. But this year, I'm against it because it feels like they score all the time because I think teams are getting smarter about it because a guy starts nobody out, you bunt him over to third, and then you just put the ball in play essentially, and he's home. And like you put the pressure. And so like, I don't know how to fix that. Like I get what they want to do, but maybe put him on first. Yeah.
It's not broken because it's being taught. And that's why these managers and these current managers are obnoxious in the sense that they are all former players who are young enough that they relate to today's player, and that's it. That's all it is because they follow orders. And the best example of that was last year, Gabe Kapler. Now, Gabe Kapler's not the manager in Philadelphia anymore, but he was the manager and the Phillies are scuffling and people are like, are they going to fire Gabe Kapler? And my response was, why would they? He's doing everything they're asking him to do. Luis Rojas is not going anywhere. He's doing what they want. That's what baseball has become.
Yeah.
And it's all by committee, and it's really, really weird, and it's really off-putting. I hate to say it, it's very off-putting. And the idea, Dragonfly, nice to see you. The argument for this game has been in 2008 versus 2018. Major League Baseball has 11,000 less balls hit in play in 10 years. And that's mind-numbing to me. Like that's disturbing to me. And if you're going to have a sport like that, I'm sorry, it's unsustainable. And I think that baseball, and this is something I wrote this weekend, was I think baseball left Atlanta, and I'm applauding that they did, but I think they went because they wanted to get on the radar. And the two stories from baseball, now you're a Yankee fan, right? So you watched Yankees games. But if you're watching just the sport, the two stories from the season so far have been leaving Atlanta for the All-Star game and the debacle in Texas with the opening day. That was it.
Well, then also last night with the umps missing the Alec Baum touching home plate thing.
That was brutal. And you have replay and they couldn't see it. I don't understand. And then
Right.
the fans charged the field. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
That was obnoxious too. Dansby Swanson said he was embarrassed. And he should be. Mets Marlins has been postponed for rain. Doubleheader tomorrow, 4 o'clock, single admission. 7-inning doubleheader. All right. The Mets have played only 5 of their 10 scheduled games.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, they just got more, like a bonus baseball from here on out, more baseball per day.
That's crazy. Guess it says it all that I didn't even hear about the fans charging the field. Camille wrote. That's true. That's totally true. Because, and I read about it this morning. I didn't see it live, but I read about it this morning. I saw a lot of Yankees Rays yesterday, and I saw Reds. I saw Luke Weaver against the for the Diamondbacks.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I watched yesterday.
Through a jam.
And the Texas debacle is their hypocrisy when they decide that opening day has no social distancing protocols, but game 2 does. That's
right.
The hypocrisy. And if they wanted to have no rules because that's what Texas can do, that's their right. I disagree with it, but that's their decision. What Texas did is hypocritical. Texas came out and said, no social distancing for opening day, but game 2, stay 6 feet apart. And that's garbage. Anyway,
I'm glad I'm not in a
much.
position to make those decisions.
What?
I know. I was called back into work. I've been sort of distracted, but Shelly asked me to do something. So I've been trying to do 2 things at once, trying to be all things to all people.
I appreciate it. I got to get some work done too, but
I'm just, I'm glad that I'm not in a position to have to make those difficult calls around attendance and COVID and everything. Because I understand that, last year, I don't want to side with billionaires, but they all lost a lot of money by not having attendance, right? And so they want to get people in the stands. There's a palpable excitement when people are in the crowd. And, there is a hypocrisy to having a full crowd on game 1 and then,
right, just
state mandated capacity game 2.
But if you're saying
but
it's safety, then do safety. Then don't
right.
Don't say it for one day. Anyway, no,
sure.
I've kept you longer than I thought, and I lost track of time. Thank you. Will you come back?
It. Sure.
All right, good deal. Thank you very much, buddy.
Of course. Bye, everyone.
All right, that's Joey Lewandowski, and he is on here, and he is there. I'm going to stick around, and I can take comments and questions if you have any. My point about Texas is just don't be hypocritical. Pick one. Don't say Well, no worries about social distancing on opening day, but games 2 through 6, make sure you stay 6 feet apart. You can't do that. You pick one. Right. Texas hypocrisy is like closing bars at 11 because the virus only comes out after 11. Agreed. And it's like what I said about the college campuses. I talked to a bunch of colleges, right? And my argument has been, at least from this perspective, my argument has been the buildings are incredibly safe. The classroom buildings are incredibly safe. The seats are apart. There's hand sanitizer everywhere. There's masks. There's face shields. There's everything. And I said to the teachers, and I said, what do you think of our protocols? And I said, they look great. Tell me what is going on at the dorms. Oh, we don't go there. I said, what about the frat houses? No, we don't go there. Just that's a joke to me. And all I ask is just be consistent. It's my only point was just be consistent. And if we're going to be on this, resurgence of sports, one point that was made on social media that I completely agreed was if you are a franchise that is concerned about your attendance, you want to cancel games like this. Like if the Mets are playing, who are they playing? Is that the Marlins tonight? Correct? Don't play tomorrow. Because postpone these games to August because the protocols, they're going to loosen the restrictions. If now you can have 8,000 at a game, do yourself a favor and keep it, wait till you can have 25,000 at a game. That's the argument. Dragonfly, thank you for following. You see your name right there on the screen. That's very, very cool. Yes, but Mets can't play doubleheaders every day in August. Well, you could. The Marlins did it last year, and they made the playoffs. Just saying, it's possible. And you can spread it out, too. You can spread it out because you can do, one doubleheader in June. The Marlins, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, if it's not the Marlins. But I thought they were the problem. And the Marlins come back 2 more times. So play the doubleheaders then. Don't play them now. To me, I would always do it later. Because I'd like to be optimistic that sports in America is going to come closer and closer to normalcy. That's at least my perspective. But the Marlins don't have Edwin Diaz on their team. That's funny. That's funny. All right, so I told the Jacob deGrom story, and I told the Donovan McNabb story. There's one more. Oh my God, I'm losing my brain. What's the other story? The other good story. Help me move. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, this is scary. Makes sense, but the players' union would complain about too many doubleheaders in a week or a month. I understand. I understand. In a pandemic, you make exceptions. And to me, the exception should be get the fan, play the games when you can put more person. You did find out today that Vijay Singh is from Fiji. Yes, he is from Fiji. That's all I know about him. But Vijay Singh is from Fiji. I'll tell you one guy that I can't stand, and I have no reason to not stand him, and that's Jim Nantz. Jim Nantz called the Masters. He called the NCAA tournament, and I found out that he went to my high school. And when I was a senior in that high school, I got told, I knew I wanted to get into communications. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I didn't know if it was going to be sports. I kind of thought I was going to be a political reporter. That's kind of where I saw myself, and I just didn't know. And I remember there was like a career questionnaire that we had to fill out, and I had this asshole of a teacher. And this teacher came out and said, what do you want to be? And I said, broadcasting. I just said broadcasting. And he said, well, you don't have what it takes to be like a Jim Nance. And I was like, what? And they said, Jim Nance was a go-getter. You're not a go-getter. You don't have enough drive to be like Jim Nance. And not only did I resent that teacher, but I wound up resenting Jim Nance. And I was just be like, F Jim Nance. And I've heard he's incredibly nice, incredibly friendly, and it is my goal to get him on my Sports with Friends podcast. But Jim Nance has always been the guy. And we did this thing with CBS where in an episode of my podcast, we had segments with Jim Nance, Tony Romo, and Ian Eagle, and a bunch of other guys. But it wasn't live. And so when I went to it and I said, oh my God, I told this story and it really, Jim Nance did nothing. And I have no reason to hate him. He's completely a nice person, but I can't stand Jim Nance in the worst way because of that teacher. And it's really bonkers because Jim Nance did nothing wrong, but I want to have Jim Nance on my podcast to tell him that story. That's the argument that I would have. I just want to tell you about the podcast. The one on the far right is called Sports with Friends, and I think we have Doug Glanville. I will check as soon as I get off this show, but I think we have Doug Glanville on the podcast this week. Former baseball player, now a broadcaster, works with The Athletic, and he's worked with ESPN, and I've known him for years. Doug Glanville, that's the plan. Hall of Justice this week is a longtime voice actor, Rob Paulson, who, if you know the show Animaniacs, he was Yakko on Animaniacs. Rob Paulson is going to be on the show for that. And no, not a Jerry Glanville relative, not even remotely connected. And then TechStream. The first episode of TechStream we did, it was about the PC versus the Mac. That was a really fun episode. The second one, the podcast was about social media and when did social media become so toxic. And then this week, and it's submitted. It'll come out on Tuesday, and that is what the hell is cryptocurrency and why is cryptocurrency such a big deal? Why is it always trending? That's the other one. Why is it always trending? But that's my thanks to Joey Lewandowski for coming on the show. Thanks to all the people who came in the chat. I'm going to do this as often as I can, and I promise we can. I do have to find out about my recordings, and I have to get all my other work done. But we have some other plans. I also think one of the things, and you tell me if you think this is crazy, Twitch suggested if I can, to write my columns and put the screen where I write my columns in the top right. You see how on the right of the screen, it's kind of like that black space? And to write my column, my sports media column, during a Twitch show. No, Jim, you're the man. You can distract me as much as you can. That's great. And anybody can. Yeah, the black hole on the right. Yes, it's supposed to be like if I get a new follower, like their name goes up. But that could, block the screen, and we could put like a Microsoft Word document out, and I'll just write it in big letters, and I'll write the column, and we'll talk about it, and you guys can help me write it. It's an idea. It's definitely an idea. All right. That'll do it for this edition of Twitch Sports. Thank you to all the folks for listening and viewing and saying hi. And check me out on Twitter. And we will see you next time.
Can anybody stand any more drums? A little more kick, a little more hat. Right there. solo. Little echo on Eric. Red. There. C minor solo. Think I hit some strange chords. Watch this. Sax solo.